Hello guys, welcome to a new video, and in this video we are going to talk about Microsoft Windows APIs. Before I start this video, I would like to tell you about the reason for my absence from YouTube. I have been giving exams since the last few months and I have been busy in that thing. I had exam in this month too, but due to the COVID-19 epidemic, the exams are now suspended. So now I can now get back to the job of making videos. So now let's move to the topic of our video, that is Microsoft Windows APIs. So we know that the most important API available in your computer is Microsoft DirectX. This is actually a collection of multiple APIs like DirectX 3D, Direct Draw, Direct Music, Direct Play, Direct Sound, Direct Write, X Input, XACT3, Xaudio 2, Direct 2D, Direct Draw, etc. Each of these APIs have different functions. The Direct 3D API is used for real-time 3D rendering, Direct 2D API is used for 2D graphics rendering, Direct Write for text rendering in software like LibreOffice, Microsoft Office, etc. Direct Compute for GPU computing, XACT3 for high-level audio API, Xaudio 2 is a low-level audio API, and DirectX Ray Tracing for real-time ray tracing. There is also DXGI API, which enumerates adapters and monitors and manages swap chains for Direct 3D 10 and later, which means that if you are using any software for Direct 3D 9 or older, this API will not be used. DirectX library also includes two softwares called DirectX Diagnostic Tool and DirectX Media Object. The DirectX Diagnostic Tool is used for displaying what version of DirectX you have and the different input devices, display devices and sound devices available in your PC, which are supported by DirectX libraries. Here you can see that my GPU is NVIDIA GeForce 1050 Ti, which is supported by DirectX, my sound devices and also my input devices. Apart from these important APIs, there were also other APIs made by Microsoft which are now depreciated. They are DirectX Media, Direct Draw, which is now replaced by Direct 2D for 2D graphics, Direct Input, which is now replaced by X Input for input devices, Direct Play for network API, Direct Sound and Direct Sound 3D are now replaced by Xaudio 2 and XACT3, and Direct Music for music production. Apart from DirectX, there are also other APIs such as WinG, which was one of the first API and it was made before DirectX for Windows 3.x operating system in order to port Microsoft DOS game to Microsoft Windows. It was also designed to provide faster graphics performance or Windows 3.x operating system, but it was soon discontinued in favor of DirectX. Then comes the OpenGL API. It is another important API which was very old and it was made in 1992. It was a very important API because it is cross-platform and cross-language and it supports both 2D and 3D graphics. It was one of the most important API along with DirectX and Glide, which I am going to talk in a minute, because OpenGL API supports all the functionalities that DirectX APIs used in the old period, and it supported a large number of hardware, unlike DirectX or Glide. The Glide API was a proprietary API made by 3dfx Interactive for their Voodoo Graphics 3D accelerator cards. They were very good cards and they supported advanced graphical capabilities. But the main and the biggest disadvantage of Glide API was that it only supported 16-bit colors and 32-bit performance was very bad in that API. So the Glide API was soon discontinued after 3dfx was bought by NVIDIA in the year 2003. The Glide API was very important because it supported a lot of games like NFS2 SE, NFS3, Need for Speed High Stakes. The three important APIs of the pre-2000 era was Glide along with OpenGL and DirectX. After 2000, there came a lot of APIs like Vulkan and Mantle and also Mesa API. The Vulkan API was made in 2015 by the same developer who developed the OpenGL API. This API was similarly a cross-platform and low-level API like OpenGL, and it had a very good performance on your PC. This is because of the low level nature of the API and because of the constant support and updates received by the API. This API is supported by a lot of new programs like Red Dead Redemption 2, Doom, etc. And it performs similarly or better than the OpenGL API. Now I'm going to run a game which is supported by the Vulkan API called Doom, which is very famous. I'm going to run the game at the maximum settings possible at 1080p resolution. I have decreased the setting of the game, decreased the sound of the game so that I can talk to you. So now we are going to start a new game, and here are the graphical settings of the game: 1080p, TSA. Here are the different graphical settings, and you can see that the game is using Vulkan API. Here is the performance meter of the game. It will show your CPU usage, GPU usage. Since I am running the game and also recording it, the CPU usage spikes to 100%. So there may be some stuttering because of the recording, but because of this graphics API called Vulkan, the stuttering will not be so much prevalent. So now let's start the game. So I am playing the game now. The game is running very smooth as indicated by the performance meter. So you can see that the game is running stable on 60 FPS on higher. So that is the biggest advantage of the Vulkan API. Let's quit this program now, and now let's move to the next API, which is the Mental API. This API was made by AMD for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It did not become very successful, and it had a few games supported like Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline, Sniper Elite 3, etc. It soon merged with the Vulkan API. The Mesa API, which is a open source software implementation of OpenGL and Vulkan, was developed from the year 1993. This API is a software implementation and it is not very famous, but it is famous in the Linux operating system. Apart from these 3D APIs, there are other 2D APIs like Direct Draw. This API is used by old games like Road Rush, which is very famous, and GTA San Andreas, sorry, not GTA San Andreas, GTA 3, Vice City, etc., which uses direct draw for some of its functions. The direct draw API was replaced by direct 2D API for the same function in the year 2008. The direct 2D API provides advanced 2D capabilities for 2D vector graphics programs, but it did not become very successful because of the emergence of the 3D graphics APIs. Now let's move to the sound APIs. One of the first sound APIs for Microsoft Windows was Direct Sound, which was included in the second or the first version of Microsoft DirectX. This API is used in almost all the games made before 2008 because of the good compatibility and easy programming of this API. The Direct Sound 3D API was used in order to make 3D sound for DirectX programs. After Direct Sound, it was replaced by Xaudio 2 and XSCT3 APIs. The Xaudio 2 API is a low-level audio API for Microsoft Windows, Xbox 360 and Windows Phone 8. The Xaudio 2 is a low-level API, which means that it has a very good compatibility and support for hardware, whereas the XSCT3 API is used on Windows Vista and Windows 7, and it is a high-level audio API. Because of the difference of the levels of this API, this Xaudio 2 has a better compatibility in comparison to XSCT3. There are also other APIs which are now defunct, like Oriole 3D and EAX. A3D API was made by Oriole Semiconductor Inc. for their sound card devices. The company came into business in the year 1995 and it was defunct by 2000. The A3D API was very important because it brought 3D sound to Windows. After A3D, there came the EAX API, which was an extension to the Direct Sound API. It was also very important because it had compatibility in many games like Call of Duty, GTA San Andreas, etc. It was depreciated in the year 2005. The EAX API is still found in many games which are now available on game sites like Steam, GOG, etc. But it is not replaced. But it is not removed from any game. You can still find in games like GTA San Andreas that the API is still found. Let me show you now. So you can see that the game uses EAX for sound processing, but since my operating system does not support EAX, it will not use it. So if you have a old sound card which supports EAX, you can still use it on old operating system. There is another sound API which is still in development called OpenAL, which is not very famous, but it is still used. It is made by the developers of EAX called Creative Technology for sound development. It is used by some developers for some of their function, but it is not used in any game. So there are other APIs for other functions like X input for input devices and direct input for input devices. The D input was implemented in the DirectX version 2 for input devices, and X input was replacing the DirectX API in the year 2008 for Microsoft Windows Vista. So these are some of the Windows APIs, guys. Thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching.